The stagecoach rattled like a box of bones when it hit the cutoff by my cottonwoods. I heard it coming. Iron on stone, a driver cussing the hill, and tried to look like a man who'd planned for this moment, not one who'd scrubbed his boots with lye and still felt unfit for company. Her letters promised practical, capable, unadorned. I pictured a sturdy woman in homespun and plain talk, a partner, not a dream. I sent $50 and a month of worry for that. Then the coach swung in, brakes screaming, and she stepped down. She didn't belong to dust. Pewter traveling suit with a sheen, cream gloves, a small hat with a veil pinned by something sharp as a star. The driver wrestled a trunk that made his arms dip, and he can toss a feed sack to the loft one-handed. She nodded thanks without looking long, the way people do who've been nodded at their whole lives. I've seen a foal take its first breath and rain swallow my fence line. I've never felt smaller than under that woman's quick, measuring gaze. Not ashamed, just sized against a yardstick I didn't know. "Sawyer Briggs?" she asked. I tipped my hat. "Ma'am." Her voice was educated iron, polite, polished, made to carry. Nothing about it said unadorned. Nothing about her said she'd ever salted beef or set a snare. "Miss, Iris," I said, tasting the name from the letters. She gave a precise smile. "Iris Quaid." Maybe practical comes in silk if you can afford it. Or maybe the story was wrong from the start. A flick of her eyes to the west said she was listening for something I couldn't hear. The trunk set too square, like whatever inside didn't want to roll. "I can carry that," I said. "No, not sharp, just final. The driver will assist." I swallowed the refusal like a pebble. "All right, porch is this way." My place talks. Pump wheezes, windmill whines, barn coughs when the rafters settle. Every complaint sounded louder with her on my boards, as if the ranch cleared its throat to ask what I thought I was doing. Inside, I set coffee and 2 chipped cups on the table I had sanded till my arms shook. She removed her gloves finger by finger, neat, unhurried. Up close, she smelled of orange blossom under the road. She tasted the coffee, hid a wince by tilting her head like she'd heard a distant rider. Another flick east. "You must have come a long way," I said. "Far enough," she said. Her letters had been an easy lantern. This woman was all hidden matches. Awe rose in me. So did the meaner feeling that makes a man joke at a dance he's scared to join. Under both, suspicion stretched warm as a stove dog. She wasn't the person I'd cleared a drawer for. Still, the sun was a hammer, and she stood on my porch with dust on her hem. Whatever story delivered her, she was here. So I did what I know, opened a door. I said, "You can take the back room. Quiet. Rest if you want. Supper's at dark." She weighed me, the veil's pin catching light. "Thank you, Mr. Briggs. I believe I will." I stepped aside and felt the line tighten between expectation and reality. If it holds, we'll make a bridge. If it snaps, I'll learn what waits beyond my cottonwoods.
We sat in the porch shade. The driver spat, tipped his hat, and rattled off, glad to be lighter by one trunk and one complication. His wheels dwindled while she balanced her cup and her gaze. "You were expecting someone plainer?" she said. "I was expecting the truth of a person," I said. "I'm exactly where I intended to be, Mr. Briggs." "Your letters had a different voice," I said. "I was advised to be practical in correspondence." A glance east. "The plains do not forgive fancy." That trunk squatted by the rail. When I dragged it inside, the pull was not cloth, but something dense as a Bible box. It didn't thump, it slid. She moved quick to take a handle. "I'll manage that," she said. Her grip told a different story. Raw under the glove, the heel of her palm abraded like she'd hauled that weight a long way. Ma'am, it's the size of a bad decision," I said. Let it ride my floor a while. A kept smile. As you wish. I set it just inside where the boards were strongest. She didn't like that. She edged it against the wall that faces no window. Someone taught her which walls catch bullets. You come far on your own? I asked. As far as I needed, she said. My previous circumstances were no longer tenable. A careful word, previous, like China held with both hands. She stirred her coffee, though nothing was in it, and counted the turns. What's your water like in a dry month? Who rides this road after midnight? Does the stage ever change time? Those are ranch questions if you plan to live, and fugitive questions if you plan to move before dawn. The hinge inside me swung from flattered to alert. I've watched yearlings look like they're grazing when they've already picked a hole in the fence. You can sleep without worry here, I said. Dogs give voice at anything that isn't wind. Good. Her eyes stayed on the tree line. I'm very tired of being watched. She folded her gloves and smoothed the seam that didn't need smoothing. The veil pin kept catching, and she'd free it with a breath you could barely hear. When I asked about the train line, she named towns in the right order, but her hands told on her, and the trunk told more. Miss Quaid, you ever mend wire? I can learn. You ever salt a hide? I can learn that too. Whatever she'd been, she meant to be something else now, or look like it long enough. Back room's yours. Door sticks and heat. Wedge a chair if you like. I'll plank the window till you decide about curtains. Her shoulders eased one notch. Thank you. I walked her down the hall. She paused at the photograph above the peg. My father in sepia, jaw like a post. My mother soft-eyed beside him. She touched the frame with the same care she'd given that pin, and something cracked under her polish. Not pity, hunger. Supper at dark? She asked. That's right. She set the trunk at the foot of the bed and sat, hands folded, still as a dove that knows the hawk is near but can't afford to fly. I stepped back outside with coffee gone cold and listened to the road like it might confess if I waited hard enough.
I didn't wait long. Dust seamed the road and 3 riders drew toward my porch. City horses slick and tack oiled dark. The middle one had pewter hair combed like a sermon, silk at his throat, and the habit of ownership in his eyes. Morning, I called. Mr. Briggs, he said. Edmund Thornton for the Hartford family. We're looking for a young lady traveling under an assumed name. You crossed a lot of prairie to say little, I said. What name? He smiled like a shade pulled down. Miss Victoria Petton. He raised his voice past me. Miss Petton, your fiancé Charles Hartford sends his carriage and his forgiveness. Behind me, the hallway creaked. She'd left the back room and stood with the veil down, hands laced. For the first time, polish slipped. Fear leaked through like water from a split stave. That isn't my name, she said, choosing each word as she spoke it. Thornton tipped his hat to the lie. Your father, Horace Petton, is distressed. You fled an engagement party 3 nights ago and took from the Hartford house a family necklace of sapphires and diamonds. We're here to retrieve both. He made both sound like property. I didn't touch the shotgun beside the jam. I just stepped so I stood between 'em. A man can be a wall without saying he is. You've got the wrong place, I said. No Miss Petton here. Mail order fraud is a crime. Harboring stolen goods doubly so. May we search? You may not. His 2 lads shifted, coats too narrow to hide intent. Thornton studied my porch like a judge reading minutes. We'll be respectful, he said. No trouble if there's no cause. Trouble rides the same, asked or unasked, I said. You holding a paper with a judge's hand on it? Silence. She drew up behind me till her shoulder almost brushed my back. It felt like a vote cast. Thornton sighed. Victoria, please, return the necklace and the rest can be arranged. Her chin rose on a string of pride. "You, the Hartford name, can arrange itself," she said, but her voice trembled. I looked past their polish to the job beneath. Men come to pin a woman like strayed stock. Something cold burned where my pride lives. "I don't lay claim to folks at my door," I said. "Not with talk and not with a banker's son." "We'll wait," Thornton said, rein in a fraction. "An hour, then I ride back with a marshal." "Men who can fetch one should start by fetching the other. Until then, you leave my gate open and your hands off your pistols." His eyes slid to her and softened the way wolves soften for the slower calf. "Think of your father, Miss Petton." They turned. Dust closed behind them. She let her breath go like a horse easing from a hard run. "My name isn't Iris. It is Victoria. I didn't steal what they say I did." She swallowed. "I took it to keep them from stealing me." There it was. The hinge turned and showed the other room. I brought the shotgun into the light. If they wanted search and seizure, they'd need more than a surname and a silk tie. They'd need a warrant and a will big enough to push past me. Then you're in the right place. While you stand on my boards, no man says who you belong to.
They didn't ride far. Thornton idled at my gate long enough to let the quiet get loud, and turned back with his boys and made a show of dismounting like he owned my ground. Hands brushed coat hams, sun slid on metal. I set the shotgun across my forearms and let the hammers breathe. 2 dogs came to the porch edge and showed teeth without sound. "We'll be civil," Thornton said, stepping to the bottom stair. "Return the Hartford necklace, and we'll forego unpleasantness." "You don't set terms on my steps," I said. He looked past me to her like a man confident the river bends to his map. "Victoria, you were raised to understand consequences." She stood beside me now, veil down, steady. "I understand them better than you," she said. "You will not embarrass your father further." He flicked 2 fingers at his men. "Search." Both moved. I shifted just enough to make the barrels obvious. "That next plank creaks," I told the left one. "Creak means I pull. Pull means you don't hear the second barrel." The boy stopped. He was the age when a man pretends he hasn't learned fear. Thornton's mouth tightened. "This is foolish. A family will remember who humiliated them." "Families with long memories often forget decency," she said. And then she did something I didn't expect, though I should have. She reached up and touched that little star at her veil. All week it had been catching on lace and light, worrying her fingers. Now it came free with a small, decisive sound. In her palm lay a blaze, blue and white fire stitched by gold, a river of cold daybreak. Even the dogs hushed like they felt the worth of it. Thornton's eyes lit like a banker at harvest. "Careful," he said. "Hand it here and we'll put this behind us." She looked down at the thing that had yoked her. "You can't trade me for me," she said, almost softly. Then she cocked her arm and threw. It left her hand with a hiss of chain and vanished 10 yards out into the thorn, catclaw, greasewood, tumbleweed gathered by years of wind. The brush took it and swallowed. Sun still burned, but a kind of night fell on Thornton's face. "No," he said, and in that one syllable I heard a vault door slam on his plans. His men moved on reflex, but I stepped to the stair and the dogs leapt 2 boards forward, growling now, serious as floods. "Easy," I told them without looking. To Thornton, I said, "Your leverage just ran on cactus feet." He tried to smile and got a grimace. "We'll pick the country clean," he said. "I'll bring 20 men and rake every acre. You'll bring a warrant first, and even with one,
You'll bring tweezers. That thorn'll take skin from a saint." He turned his fury at her. "Do you know what you've done? That necklace has been in the Hartford family since they bought a woman with it. I have returned it to something with more thorns than men." I felt something hot and clean move through me. Admiration edged with awe. She hadn't asked for rescue. She had set her own fire. Thornton saw it too, a door closing that he couldn't shoulder open. He gathered his hat like it weighed more. "This isn't finished. I'll have the law by morning, and I'll have you charged with theft, fraud, and any sin a judge can name. You bring the sun up if you can. Till then, get off my land." They backed. One boy looked long at the brush like he might dive head first. The other rubbed his wrist where the idea of the second barrel had gripped it. Thornton mounted, jaw a stone, and they rode out, keeping their backs straight for pride. She stood on my boards and watched the place where the necklace disappeared, breathing like she'd swum a river. "I am sorry," she said, voice low. "You may live quieter without me. They won't forgive this." "Neither will the thorn," I said. "You chose yourself over a price. That sits right here." Thunder muttered far off, or maybe it was the blood in my ears. Either way, the air changed. Power had moved, not to me, but away from men who mistook a woman for a deed.
They left a silence that clung to the rafters. I walked the fence with the dogs till the sun leaned, then found her on the steps, mending a snag at her cuff. When she pricked her finger, she didn't flinch. "I'm sorry," she said. "I brought a storm to your door." "I've lived through storms," I said. "What's coming isn't weather. That's a choice men make." "My father will escalate," she said. "He can buy law like horseshoes. The Hartfords will lend him names." I didn't think this far. I thought only to get far. "That's far enough for today," I said. "Tomorrow's a taller fence." We ate on the porch, bacon, beans, cornbread. She took small bites like she wasn't sure she'd earned any. After the plate cleared, she folded her hands. "I'll go before morning. If they take your land for harboring me, I won't forgive myself." "My land's a stack of notes and wire," I said. "It lives because I do. If I can't decide who sits at my table, I'm already foreclosed." Her eyes shone with what's left after tears. "Do you understand what kind of men you're opposing?" "I know the kind. They ride with rule when it suits, and with rope when it doesn't." Iris was a tool, an advertisement for a life I could step into between towns. I wrote a dozen letters. You answered like a man, not a buyer. "That's all I know how to be." She laughed once, then fear dimmed it. "They'll return with a marshal, or worse, a clever clerk. Paper is more dangerous than pistols." "And we'll answer with paper and posts," I said. "I'll ride to the county seat at first light, speak to Judge Tillerson. He isn't pure, but he owes me for beef and hard winters." "You'll be gone by then." "I can be, but it won't change the math. They'll trample this place looking and find any excuse to own it. Better we meet 'em under a roof we choose." She was quiet until the first crickets began. "What do you want from me?" she asked. "Truth, and a chance to plan." She opened her palm. A thorn had lodged there from when she threw the necklace. I took her hand, turned it to the light, and teased the point free with my smallest knife. She watched like no one had ever tended pain without sending a bill. She said, "I want to earn my bread, to be nobody's bargain, to wake and not fear a door." "All right," I said. "Tonight you sleep in the back room with a chair under the knob and a pistol under the pillow. I'll set lanterns at the road, move the horses, hide your trunk in the root cellar. If riders come, we'll be boring and lawful until we need not be."
I don't want you ruined, she whispered. Then don't run. Stand long enough for the truth to take root. She looked into the dark. All right, she said. I'll stay. Wind moved through the cottonwoods. Thunder rolled. We began the small work that wins fights. Lamps trimmed, hinges quieted, dogs watered, a dust line at the threshold so a man stepping in would leave his name.
Morning came knife cold. Horses in the east lot, her trunk under turnips. I'd slept with the shotgun across my knees and woke to 6 riders, 4 plain, Thornton bright as a coin, and a U.S. Marshal. He dismounted, touched his brim. Marshal Elias Larkin, Territorial Service, he said. I have a warrant. Read it in honest light, I said on the porch. His deputy read, Victoria Petton, 22, accused of theft of the Hartford necklace and absconding with bearer instruments from the house of Horace Petton, harboring attaches, authority, Judge Wicks. Search extends to the livery of Joseph Carver and any conveyance under his control. The seal was true, so was the gap. Arrest attaches to her person, I said. Search is limited to Carver's livery. This house isn't named. Larkin's mouth ticked. Mr. Briggs, you read well, Mr. Briggs. I said, paper is a gun. I like to know where it points. Thornton edged his gilding. The woman is inside. Then arrests happen on the step, I said. If you aim to search my rooms, you ride back and put my name on that line. The back room door opened. She came to the threshold, braid neat, eyes steady. I'll speak to the warrant, she said. Miss, are you Victoria Petton? I am the person they call that. Enough verse, Thornton, snapped she. She stole bonds. Which bonds? I asked Larkin. Numbers, amounts, bank? Thornton blinked. Riverside Trust, household holdings, unnumbered. Nothing is unnumbered that can be counted, I said. Larkin's gaze thinned. Mr. Thornton, the court prefers particulars. He slid the paper away. Miss Petton, you'll need to appear. I can bring you under the star, or you can ride in yourself. I'll appear at noon, she said, with documents. Documents, Thornton said. Mr. Thornton, and the star did the rest. You don't prosecute on a man's stoop. No search today, he told me. If she slips out the back draw, I'll take it personal. I'll hitch by 11, I said. Thornton leaned so the sun couldn't reach his eyes. You think this is about jewels? He asked her. It's propriety. I cut myself free from sale, she said. You'll learn the difference between liberty and ruin. I learnt it in his house. They turned. When the road went quiet, I eased the hammer down. You don't have to come, I said. I have to finish, she said. If I'm to be ruined, I'll be ruined by daylight, by my own hand. We set to it. At my table, we copied names. Banker, Hartford matriarch, the solicitor. We stacked papers and rehearsed. I found my ledger with winter beef sold to Judge Wicks's clerk and set it face up. Men remember kindness they ate. Thunderheads lifted. By noon, Law would ride this road again. We'd meet it at the gate. They came back just before noon, the marshal riding steady, Thornton riding hot. Mr. Briggs, Larkin said, dismounting. Miss Petton? She stepped out with her braid coiled and a packet tied with my ledger twine. I'll answer your warrant, she said. Go on, Larkin said. She set each sheet on my barrel-top table. 3 months ago, she said, my father signed this.
She slid forward a letter with Horace Petton's seal. It says, I am disowned and disinherited, property rights revoked, access rescinded. If I am no daughter, I cannot steal household holdings. I had no lawful access to any bonds in his house. Thornton snorted. Family discipline is not a writ. It's motive. This is the Hartford solicitor's notice of a marriage settlement. No diary, only assurances after vows. No inventory. The necklace was the bait. The bonds were the chain. Larkin read, squinting. Judge Wicks issued a warrant on bonds that aren't numbered. That's unusual to the point of fancy. Here, I said, turning my barrel so the winter entry showed. Deliveries to the courthouse. If bonds were numbered, that clerk would have written them. That proves nothing, Thornton said, but the ground shifted. Victoria lifted one last page. Affidavit, she said, swearing I heard Charles Hartford and Mr. Thornton agree to make it criminal if she runs. I wrote it the night I fled and had it witnessed by Mrs. Laveau on 3rd. Name of a witness is a fact I can touch, Larkin said. He looked at Thornton. You didn't tell me about disownment. It's a family matter, Thornton said. It's legal when you ask me to use irons, Larkin said. He folded the warrant. As to the necklace, I'm inclined to believe its whereabouts are not presently knowable. Thornton's jaw flexed. Do your duty, he said. Your duty isn't to be your broom. Larkin turned to Victoria. Miss, I won't haul you today. I'll write you appeared with documents. You'll come before the court next week if called. I will, she said. And your search? I asked. No search, he said. This paper stops at Carver's livery. I won't stretch it over a rancher's threshold because a banker asked nicely. Thornton held his hat like he meant to crush the crown. You are making an enemy of money, he told Larkin. I've done dumber things and lived, Larkin said, mounting. Bring me numbers and a judge who writes straight. They rode. She gathered the papers with hands that shook only after it was safe. I wrote that affidavit in a closet. The maid held the lamp. For this morning, I asked. For my life, she said. Rain touched the step. Out in the thorn, a blue spark lay useless to anyone who thought it could buy a woman.
After they left, the ranch exhaled. Chickens resumed their argument with noon, the windmill clicked its weary teeth, and the dogs sprawled where sun warmed the boards. Clouds shouldered in from the west, heavy and graced, the first honest promise of water in a month. What happens now? I asked. She turned the question on its edge like a coin. Now I stop being something man-arranged, she said. Now I am someone I choose. You want to ride on? I asked. I'll saddle. I'll see you past the ridge and make it look like a cattle drive. She looked toward the thorn where blue ones glamoured. I'm done running, she said. Running keeps the story theirs. We went inside. I took down the family Bible from the shelf where it lived between a jar of nails and a spool of twine. It opens to two things, births and rain. My father's hand was a fence post in the margins, my mother's a river between. I set the book on the table and let it lie there like a gate waiting. She watched me, chin lifted, not with pride this time, but with steadiness. If I wrote a name in there, she said, it would be mine to keep. Only if you want it, I said, and only if it means freedom. She touched the blank below my mother's last entry, not a tremor. Mrs. Victoria Briggs, she said, and then she smiled an unguarded smile that made the room larger. If you'll have me. If you'll have me, I said back,
because I've learned the difference between purchase and choice. We did small, brave things. Boiled water, washed hands, combed hair. I found the ribbon she'd kept in a pocket and cut it in half, so each of us wore a scrap at the wrist. Promise mean as twine and twice as strong. I hitched the wagon, and we rolled to Mrs. Alder's. She's a widow who knows papers. She stood us under her porch eaves and asked the right questions and wrote what was necessary. 2 neighbors signed, one in a shaky hand that has branded more calves than I'll ever own. No crowds, no music, no father's speech, just our names and a woman with a good pen. On the way home, we stopped by the thorn patch. The brush held its counsel. "Leave it," she said. "Let the desert own what tried to own me." "Then it stays," I said, and meant it. A jackrabbit burst and ran. The dogs gave chase half-hearted and returned happy to lose. Wind lifted. First drops dappled the dust like a new map. We hurried to bring in saddles and close the feed room. The smell rose, the one all ranchers live for, green and iron and relief. She stood at the door with rain needle in her braid and laughed the soft laugh of someone forgiven by no one but herself. "There'll be more law," I said over the patter. "Maybe new paper, maybe old anger. Then we'll answer it together, with our own paper, with our porch." "Back room still yours?" I said. She looked at me like I'd missed my own moment. "Front room, Mr. Briggs," she said. "I don't intend to sleep behind a chair anymore." That night, lightning walked the far hills and thunder told a long, old story. We ate by lamplight and counted what we had. Fence to mend, calves to brand, a ledger to leaned our way for once, a marshal who'd written straight, a widow's ink drying, 2 dogs, a Bible with a name in it that both of us chose. The ranch creaked the way a house does when it remembers it is a home. When the rain settled into steadiness, I pulled the window open and let it in. She set her palm in the wet and pressed it to the door jamb, leaving a print that looked like a seal. "Now," she said, "we begin."